Hello artists, and welcome to a little video about how to make a spooky house. Halloween is coming up in, I think, a week. I'm so excited. I love Halloween because it's a chance to dress up and paint our faces, which, as you all know, I love to do. So today I'm going to show you how to paint the sky for your spooky house, and then I'm going to show you how to draw the spooky house. Okay, so let's get started. First thing you have to do is pick the color you want your sky to be. I picked blue here, and for this video, I'm going to choose a different color. I'm going to pick red. So I want to do my sky red, and I'm going to put some white in my paint palette so I can make tints of red, and I'm going to put some black in my paint palette so I can make shades with my red. And then I'm also going to pick one other color. I'm going to pick a color that is next to red on the color wheel. So let's flip this around and take a look at the color wheel. All right, so another color that I could do with red would be purple. Purple is next to red on the color wheel. Or I could do orange. I'm going to pick orange. I want to do orange and red for my sky with white and black. So I'm going to start by trying to create the moon. And the moon is pretty white, okay? And then around the white moon is the tint. So it will be like a pinkish color around the moon that I'm gonna create. So I have my water cup here. We always wanna paint with our brush being wet, and I've got my colors here in the paint palette. So I'm gonna start with just straight white, and I'm gonna put a circle up here. Okay, and then around the circle, I'm going to make a tint of red. And you can see I've made my tint here, and then I might put a little bit of orange in that tint as well. Okay, and that's what that tint looks like. Going around the white circle, getting my brush wet so that I'm not painting dry. Right around my white circle. Okay, so I've done the tint. And now I want to get darker as we move down the paper. Okay, so you see how it moves into a shade. So now what I'm going to mix is a tone. I'm going to make gray. I'm going to take white and I'm going to mix it with just a little bit of black. There's my gray. Now I'm going to put some red in it. Okay, and now I have a tone right there. So I'm going to do this one next. Okay, there's my tone. And where the tone meets the tint, you want to really blend those two together so it doesn't look stripy. And when we blend, a really great color to use is white. So wherever those two changes in value meet, I'm going to blend them really well with some white so that it doesn't look so stripy. There, okay. Now you see how the tint blends nicely into the tone. So I just put white at their meeting point, and I'm sort of painting back and forth in circular motion. Now I'm going to wash my brush, get it clean, and I'm just going to take some straight orange, and I'm going to put that right on top of the tone that I made. And that's because I kind of want to make this sky look a little bit more like sunset. Okay, like a spooky sunset is sort of what I'm trying to create. I'm just putting orange, and I got my brush wet just now, and I'm blending my orange into the tone that I had made there for the red. Okay, and now it's time to make my shade. So I'm going to blend my red with some black. So I'm going to put some red and a little bit of black. We really don't need much black. Okay, there we go. There's my shade, and now I'm going to put that down here. That's what my shade looks like. And again, I might put some orange on top of my shade to make it look more sunsetty. Put some red on it. Okay, back and forth. And as you get down towards the bottom of your paper, you want the shade to get darker. How do we make a shade darker, Miss Grace? Well, you can make a shade darker by adding a little bit more black to that shade to darken it up. Okay, so I'm going up and down, and I'm just putting some straight orange on now on top of my shade. Okay. And you can see where the shade is meeting the tone right there, where they meet. And it's looking really stripy. It's not looking well blended. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna use white. I'm gonna get my brush just white with some water, and I'm gonna hit that spot where the two are meeting, and I'm going to blend it with just white. Okay, to kind of soften it up so it doesn't look as stripy. There we go. Okay, and now I have this part here on the bottom, so I'm going to get really dark. I'm going to make a super dark shade. Wow, that almost looks purple. Okay, getting my brush wet so that the paint moves and spreads really well and I'm not painting dry. Okay, and if it looks too black, for you, then just put some red right on top of it. Get your brush loaded up with red and blend the red in. So right now I'm just taking straight red on my brush. And I'm going over top of that dark shade that I made, because once I put it on the paper, I looked at it and I was like, Miss Grace, that's really black. That's too dark. That's too dark. That's too dark that I don't want it that dark. So I just put some red on top. And now I'm going to put some orange and I'm going to go over top of that shade as well. I'm going to blend this. Okay. There we go. There is my spooky sunset. The last thing I'm going to do is I really want to hit this part. This part where the moon is, I want to blend it better. You can see how well blended that one is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash my brush. And I'm going to put it straight in the white again. And I'm just going to go around that circle, blending it into the tint. Like that. There. So now it's a much softer shape. It's a softer moon. It's better blended with the rest of the sky. Okay. So that is my spooky sunset. All right, you have to put it to the side and let it dry. So I'm going to let it dry. Okay, and then once it's dry, I can draw the spooky house. So I prepared a painting ahead of time. Let me grab it. Okay. So I made this one beforehand, and I'm going to show you guys how to draw the spooky house right now. Okay, so I'm putting my paints to the side because I'm not using them anymore. And what I have here is a yellow oil pastel, and I wish I had a black oil pastel, but I forgot it at school. So I'm going to use my black Sharpie and a white oil pastel. I'm going to use a white oil pastel so you can see my drawing, but then I'm going to color it in black. So I want to put my spooky house on a hill. I'm going to do a little hillside going up like that. All right, and then I'm going to make a rectangle like that. Okay, and on top of the rectangle, I'm going to put a trapezoid. My trapezoid kind of hangs off on the sides. This is where the roof is hanging off. Diagonal lines going up like that, and then straight across. Okay, this is my trapezoid. This is the roof. Okay, and then I'm going to put a little porch hanging off this side. So I'm going to put a triangle right there. Okay, and then I'm going to put some straight lines going down. These are the porch beams, like that. And then I'm going to put on the third floor. So I'm going to put another rectangle on top of the trapezoid. But I'm going to have it be on the side of the trapezoid there. Like that. And then I'm going to put a nice pointy roof on top. So before I put the pointy roof on, I decide where the peak of the roof will go. So I put a dot where I want the top of the roof to be. And then from that dot, I come down and I make the triangle. And there's a little balcony here. So I'm going to add my balcony. I'm going to put a triangle hanging off the side like that. And then porch beams coming down to support it. Balcony beams, okay? So there's my balcony. Okay, and I'll color that in black in a moment. And now I'm going to do a little room hanging off the side here. Just kind of depends on how big you want your house to be, but mine is a big old spooky house. Okay, and there it is. Now with my yellow, I'm going to do the windows. So I want 2 windows here. And I'm gonna decide on the shape of my windows. I want my windows to be like rectangular, but have like a curved oval top to them, like old Victorian windows. And I'm gonna color them in yellow because this is the inside light of the house. And it would be yellow from the inside. Okay, so there's my windows. And I'm gonna put a little window up here in the peak of the house, like that. And then I'll put one over here. And maybe this is a door. Okay. There we go. And now with my black Sharpie, I can go ahead and I can color in my house. And I'm gonna color in the hillside also, all black, okay? And it's better if you have oil pastel because it's just faster to color that way. And I'm trying to color with my Sharpie on top of a painting, so my Sharpie is not as effective. So I'm going to switch to black paint because I know my black paint will be very, very dark. So I'm going to use a small brush for my black paint. I'm going to paint in very carefully the parts of my house that I had drawn in. I would really recommend everybody use an oil pastel just because when you use pastels, you have a little bit more control than when you have a brush. Sometimes when we're painting, you know, we get like outside of our lines or the paint spreads in places that we didn't want it. So I would say that if you can use oil pastel, that would be better. But if you really want to paint your house, you can. Just be very careful that you stay inside of the lines that you've drawn. Okay, I would use a little skinny brush, especially for the parts where you've done like the porch beams. That would probably be easier if you have a little bitty brush to paint those sections in with. Let's see if I can do it. I'm gonna get my paintbrush and I'm gonna try to paint in 1, 2, 3. Woo, I did it. That was tough though. Okay, painting in this part of the porch. And I gotta be very careful around my windows because I don't wanna cover those up. Painting in that hillside, and then I could put in a little tombstone. I'm gonna put in a tombstone because this is a spooky house. So a tombstone is like that. It's got a curved top on it. There's the grave. And I can put in some spooky birds. Some bats flying around. They're just sort of like V shapes. Okay, I paint this part of my house here. Being very, very careful, going around my shapes. Take your time. There we go. All right, so finish coloring your house in with black oil pastel. And this is what we will be doing in our live session on Tuesday. So if you are watching the live session for grade 1 on Tuesday and you're confused as to what I'm doing or I'm going too fast, then you can watch this video and follow along with the steps that I just showed you.